For goodness gracious sakes, Kym, turn up the heat. You are so cheap. Ew, you buy your clothes at the thrift store? I could never wear something that someone else wore first. Stop trying to be Laura Ingalls, for pity's sake. You can buy your food at the grocery store. Girl, you are retired. You are supposed to be living it up. You've worked hard all your life. You should be enjoying it. You are totally missing out. I would be so bored if I had to live your life. Why do you have leftovers in your refrigerator? Ugh, aren't you afraid you'll get sick from them? I myself only eat fresh, cooked food. Well, welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's kind of fun adventures of the Wellness Homesteader. But even though I did kind of a spoof intro, if you will, I wanted to talk today about a very important topic. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been frugal shamed? So as I start out this video, I want to give a big shout out to Hope and Larry over at Under the Median, because they actually did a video one day this week. And I'm not sure when you're all going to see this, but just look in their playlist about frugal shaming. And wonderful video, great suggestions, lovely story. And their story is different than my story. So I encourage you to go out and watch their video as well if you're having problems with frugal shaming. So let me just say, I'm not criticizing anyone in my family or any of my friends. Y'all, if you're watching, please, don't think I'm pointing at you. But I have had a ton of frugal shaming in my life. So the intro, these are things that have been said to me over and over and over again. And I think, you have to love your friends and family in spite of that. But I think there's a few points, if you are experiencing frugal shaming, that might be helpful to you. So let me just tell you, while some people call me cheap, my mom, and I love my mom dearly, but she has no concept, of why I do what I do, right? Let's just take a step back. And this isn't about, oh, look at me, I'm so successful. Because I have challenges, y'all. I could have done better and I can continue to do better. All right. I retired at age 58, albeit on medical retirement, but I was able to retire early. I was debt and mortgage free at the time of my retirement. And to me, I am getting to live my dream life in turning what I have here into a very small scale homestead. And that is what I dreamed of and strove for through working full time for 42 years. So to me, I've arrived. And yes, I live frugally, y'all. I'm not cheap, and there's a difference between cheap and frugal. I want to talk about that. Uh, but I'm okay with that. And I feel like I am so blessed and I have such a rich life that when people try to frugal shame me, it does bounce off now. But I have a few suggestions. So let's talk about cheap versus frugal. So most of the time, when people say you're cheap or you're tight versus you're being frugal, it has a connotation to say, um, you aren't generous with others and you're not generous with yourself and you're squirreling away all this money for some, unknown type reason, right? Um, and what I want to say is being frugal does not mean that you're not generous with other people or that you don't bless other people. I do both. In being frugal, and again, this isn't about look at me and what I do, but being frugal enables me to do more of that which brings me true joy. So the first point I have, these are just my points. Some of them might be a little similar to Larry and Hope's, but I just had to bring this to you because I thought, I bet I'm not the only one. We've been doing the pantry challenge. A lot of us are on a low spend year, and people may look at us and be like, you are so cray cray. But here's what really helped me. So let me take a little bit of a step back and tell you a little bit about what went on financially for me, without going into great detail. So I've shared many times, I've had 4 major, not minor, major spine surgeries. Thank the Lord, I'm all put back together. But having 2 chronic diseases, I knew that my plan to work until, I couldn't anymore, basically, well into my 70s was not going to happen. And I knew that a good 10 years before I actually did retire. So what I did was I I had I think 16 years left to pay on my house. And I was like, wow, if I only make it 10, which is what I made it, um, I better speed this thing up. So I was able to refinance my house from a 16-year mortgage to a 5-year personal loan. And that may not be possible for anyone else. I'm just sharing what I did. But what happened was I became really, really, did I say really, house poor. Y'all, I mean, it was a big, big, big payment. And while I didn't have any other consumer debt, I had to really change things up a bit to make that happen. Now I only have to pay taxes and insurance, which, believe it or not, is about $500 a month for me, but I'm not paying a mortgage on top of that. And so during that 10-year period, I had to curb a lot of the ways I was spending money. So less entertainment, less going out to eat, less doing things with friends that were expensive, less pleasure trips. And what I can say is people are like, what? You have an executive nurse position, you're making good money. Um, what up with that? And while I didn't feel comfortable sharing my financial situation, I really felt frugal shamed at the time. Bringing leftovers in to eat at lunchtime instead of going out with all of my coworkers, things like that. So, what I want to say to you, if you're being frugal, I want you to focus on your reason why. What is your goal in doing this? Are you trying to save for early retirement? Are you saving for, I don't know, your dream vacation, or like me, windows and doors? Rather have the dream vacation, just saying. But at any rate, that'll come after the windows and doors, right? Are you saving and being frugal because you want the financial security of knowing you have a cushion to fall back on should something happen? Um, are you saving for your dream goal? Like my dream goal was. So try to focus, and don't make your focus on, well, I'm frugal because I'm poor. I'm frugal because my income is low. There are reasons that you are frugal beyond that. So try to pick or focus on your positive reason that you are choosing to live a frugal lifestyle. All right. Number 2, don't live a frugal lifestyle with a I'll show them attitude, and really focusing on making the people that are shaming you wrong. That is never successful. It's very hard to stick with. And frankly, I don't believe it's a very Christ-like attitude. Um, have I ever done it? Oh, you betcha. I'll show you. But I found if I just focused on my reasons and let all the noise of frugal shaming go by me, and we'll talk about that in a minute, uh, it was so much easier to stick with what I needed to do. Number 3, and this is not a point that I heard from Larry and Hope, but I was thinking about it. Frugality is cyclical. So let me take you back, and y'all may not be old enough. I was born in 1961, but a lot of my significant growing up years, junior high, high school, were in the 70s, right? The 70s were a time that we were more frugal, I would say, as a country. So there was a lot of home homemade things, like people were sewing, people were knitting, people were growing gardens, people still canned. Things were a little bit different back then, and people did focus on being frugal. Now, if you fast forward to 2023, y'all, we've been down a road, have we not? With the virus, with the pandemic, with warehouse fires, with chicken flu. Go to the grocery. Frugality is coming back into season. So, what I was thinking about is I thought, there are family, and not my mom, y'all. I'm not criticizing my mom or my son. Let me just put it out there. But there are family members that are now coming to me for help. So I am able to share with them my why, which is going to be different than their why, how I focused on it, how I let the noise of the frugal shaming roll off me. And again, we're going to talk about that. And tips and tricks. You know, I can squeeze a dollar, guys. um, my son used to tell me all the time as a teen, "You are so cheap, Mom," because he wanted a new game for his, well, back then it was Nintendo, and they were like $50 back then. I didn't have $50 all the time, you know what I mean? And I was saving, and this was before my 10-year period, but still, single parent, paying a mortgage, probably paying a car payment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Today, my son loves, 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 loves to figure out ways to save money, and he's so good at it because he learned from the best. Mwah. Just kidding. But he will share his frugal tips, and I will share mine with him. So even though you may have people very close to you, very close, my own kid did it to me. My mother still does it to me. And I love my mom, you guys. I got to keep saying that. And I love my son, of course. You may be able to take them on a journey with your knowledge. So don't put up a wall and don't say, "You should have listened to me back when you made fun of my sweater," which, y'all, I got this at the thrift store 3 years ago for $1, and it's one of my favorite sweaters, just saying. All right. They may need your help and skills. Just remember that. Number 4, there may be a lesson or something to take away from the shaming that people are giving you. So while I'll just give you an example. I have been wholly shamed about how cold my house is, right? And I used to keep it even colder, y'all, than what I did. And I would get a lot of shaming, and my friends didn't want to come over because it was so flippin' cold in here. And I've shared before, I'm warm blooded and it doesn't bother me like the average person. But um, one of the things I kept hearing is I used to have a lot of respiratory trouble, like colds and such. The reason you're always sick is because your house is too cold. Well, you know what? There was a grain of truth in it. Just by raising the temperature a little bit, I stopped having so many respiratory issues. So don't discard everything your shamers say. Take a look at it. There may be, "You're so cheap," and you're going to discard that because you're not cheap, you're being frugal because you need to turn up your heat because you're sick a lot. That may be the nugget of truth. So look carefully at what people are saying to you. See if there's anything that is relative and useful to you. And you know what, y'all? It really doesn't always do any good to engage in a debate with people who are not of a frugal mindset, because they're not there yet. So sometimes you have to agree to disagree and just move on. All right. Final point. Easier isn't better. Um, okay, how do I say this? So when I worked, I traveled all the time, and I did utilize services that made my life easier. But that I had to exchange dollars for the service. So things like I had a water filtration system that I paid a rent on and had my water delivered, and I didn't mess with like one of those Berkey type filters, and it was just there and it was already chilled and I didn't have to fill up a jug, um, those type things. But now I have a knockoff Berkey filter. I can't think of the name of it, y'all, but it's a great filter. If I can think of it, I'll link it in the description box. So I have to keep it cleaned out. I have to keep it filled. Then I have to fill a jug for the refrigerator because it's not chilled and I like cold water. So doing all that, well, yes, the filter cost me very, very little, honestly. Um, but just because that was easier, and I keep pointing over here because that's where it's set, it doesn't mean that it was better. This system works. And you know what else? Being frugal isn't easy. I'm just going to say that. It takes work. But the skills you will learn are so, so valuable. It is amazing. Now, I have an inquiring mind. Y'all know that. If I see or hear about something, whether it's sourdough bread, whether it's I want chickens, I'm going to build a chicken coop. Have I ever done that before? Nope, but I bet I can. And I did. I love those type of things. And those skills, we don't know what's ahead, y'all. I can bake in a sun oven. I know how to bake all my own bread. I have cabinets full of homegrown, home canned food. And I could exist on my food supply for quite some time and I can grow more, y'all. So try to not focus on the amount of work. Try to enjoy the skill set you're learning and also be willing to share. Because I'm going to tell you most of the time, not always, that shaming group may come full circle. And when they come full circle, it is going to be you who they come to for advice to learn a new skill. One final example, I couldn't read my own handwriting, y'all. When you remember at the start of the pandemic, you couldn't find a mask anywhere now, you can buy them at 7-Eleven, which I don't even know. Is there still 7-Eleven? Somebody's going to have to tell me that because I don't know. At any rate, I lost count, hundreds of face masks because I have the skill of sewing. I had the supplies and I could help people out. I made masks for groups of companies who were still open to the public, who were very fearful of contracting the virus and needed masks. I could do that. Another example, remember the toilet paper issue? Hmm? So I was like, okay, I'm not using newspaper or corn shucks or and my toilet paper supply is very different now than it was back then. But we were all in my neighborhood so lean on toilet paper that my next door neighbor, God rest his soul, would go to the Dollar General every day here in town, and they had a limit, but you could buy this 4-pack of TP for like $1, but the rolls were super tiny, and you're like, I can't spare a square. Seinfeld reference if you don't know. And I was like, you know what? It might be nice to have an alternative. So what did I do? I went to YouTube. I found out all about family cloth, which is basically just sewing your own toilet paper. I actually never got to that point. I use them as hankies, but I also have them as hankies, right? So having that skill of sewing, I actually went to the thrift store, bought men's flannel pajama pants and sewed them, bleached them and washed them in hot water and did all the things and sewed them up. So, having those skills, we don't know what we're going to need. And being frugal, while I buy toilet tissue, I'm fully going to tell you that, it's nice to have. Another thing, y'all, my mom, God bless her, and I've shared before, my parents grew up in Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky, and my mom hated farming. My mom hated animals. Um, she felt that that was a hard scrabble life, and it really was. My grandparents were very poor, and I'm not being disrespectful, it's just the truth. So, my mom's view of some of the homesteading type things is there's a better life for you, Kym, and you don't need to do that. She about had a meltdown when I got the chickens, and she was a little more aware back then. She said, "You are going to hate it. They are mean. They will peck you. They stink." And none of those things for me have been true. My chickens love me. They don't stink. I keep the coop clean, and I love things like that. I feel like I have been blessed by the Lord to live my dream lifestyle. Do I have a scat of money? No. Will I probably be frugal till the day I die? You betcha. So I just wanted to send out this little video as an encouragement to you all. If you are struggling with people shaming you, focus on your why. Examine what they're saying for anything that could be helpful to you. Build your skill set and be willing to help, because I'm going to guarantee you that time, no matter who they are, may also come for them. I will see you all later this week or first of next. I'm not sure, guys, I'm ahead, so I'm not sure like what order, and I'm doing the sourdough series and all that, but I just couldn't let that go. I just wanted to share that with you. So I hope you all take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Smash the like button. Don't forget, share this video. If you have other friends that are being frugal shamed, it might help them. All right, I will see you very soon. And until then, be healthy, be well, be blessed. Take care.